Episode 1, Why You Wouldn't Survive a Night in a Medieval Inn. Welcome. Tonight, you're not expected to solve a mystery or remember every detail. There won't be a test waiting for you at the end. Your only job is to get comfortable, let your mind wander, and allow history to unfold at its own gentle pace. If you find yourself drifting to sleep before the story is over, then this episode has done exactly what it was meant to do. So settle in, take a slow breath, and imagine that the year is somewhere around 1350. The sun has almost disappeared beyond the hills, and you've been walking for hours. Your boots are stiff with dried mud. Every step has become a little heavier than the last. There are no street lights ahead, no glowing hotel signs, and certainly no reservation waiting for you. For a brief moment, you think you've reached comfort. You haven't. The wooden door groans as you push it open. Inside, nearly every seat is occupied. Merchants, farmers, pilgrims, laborers, and strangers from places you've never heard of all share the same room. Everyone notices you. Only for a moment. The floor beneath your feet is uneven. Straw has been scattered across the boards not because it looks nice, but because it helps absorb spilled ale, mud, and things people would rather not think about. The air is thick. Smoke from the fireplace hangs just below the ceiling because chimneys are far less efficient than modern ones. Candles flicker against rough timber walls, throwing soft shadows that seem to move even when no one does. Someone eventually asks if you need food. There is no menu. Dinner is simply whatever happened to survive the day's cooking. Perhaps thick vegetable pottage. Perhaps coarse bread that has become almost as hard as the table. If you're fortunate, there may even be a small piece of salted meat. Fresh food is a luxury. Clean drinking water isn't always trusted. So many people choose weak ale instead. Contrary to popular myth, people didn't spend the Middle Ages constantly drunk. But watered ale was often considered a safer option than questionable water supplies. As you eat, you begin noticing something else. There is almost no privacy. The people around you speak openly about family, work, travel, and local gossip because private conversations are difficult in a single crowded room. Soon someone asks where you're headed. Not because they're being rude. Because travelers are interesting. News moves only as fast as people can carry it. Without realizing it, you've become tonight's entertainment. When it finally becomes time to sleep, you discover another surprise. Your room isn't really your room. If the inn is busy, and it almost always is, you may share a bed with complete strangers. Not just the room, the bed itself. Beds are expensive. Blankets are valuable. Warmth is practical. Privacy is a luxury few people can afford. You remove your boots and lie down beside someone whose name you'll never know. The mattress is filled with straw. It shifts loudly beneath every movement. Somewhere across the room, another traveler snores with remarkable determination. A baby begins crying. Someone coughs. The fireplace crackles. The wooden building settles softly as the night air cools its beams. Outside, horses shuffle in the stable. Rain begins tapping gently against the roof. Oddly enough, after walking all day, surrounded by strangers, wrapped in heavy blankets beneath the quiet rhythm of rainfall, sleep eventually finds you anyway. Perhaps people have always been better at adapting than we give them credit for. As the fire burns lower and conversations slowly disappear into silence, the inn grows quieter. Not silent, though, just peaceful enough. The rain continues long after everyone has settled. Not the dramatic kind of storm that keeps you awake. Just a steady rhythm against weathered shingles, as though the sky itself has decided to whisper instead of speak. The warmth of the fire reaches only part of the room now. Every few minutes a log shifts quietly, sending a brief shower of glowing embers upward before settling once again. Around you, the inn has found its nighttime rhythm. The merchant nearest the hearth has begun to snore in short, determined bursts. Someone in the corner murmurs softly in their sleep, perhaps dreaming of home or tomorrow's road. A horse stamps its hoof outside, then everything becomes still again. If you expected medieval nights to be filled with danger at every turn, you might be surprised. Most nights were simply ordinary. Long before electricity, darkness encouraged people to rest. Once the day's work was finished, there was little reason to stay awake. Candles were expensive. Firewood required effort to gather every extra hour of light carried a cost. So people often slept when the sun disappeared, not because they wanted to, because it made practical sense. In fact, historians believe many people during the Middle Ages followed what is sometimes called segmented sleep. Instead of sleeping straight through the night, they often rested for several hours, woke naturally for a quiet period, and then returned to sleep before dawn. During that peaceful waking hour, some prayed, some added another log to the fire. Some spoke quietly with family members. Others simply listened to the silence outside. It may sound unusual today, but before alarm clocks and glowing phone screens, human sleep often followed a gentler rhythm. Tonight, however, you remain asleep. Mostly because you've walked farther than your modern legs are accustomed to. The mattress beneath you offers little comfort by today's standards. Your pillow, if you can call it that, is little more than a linen sack stuffed with feathers that have long since forgotten their original shape. Yet somehow your body accepts it. Comfort, it turns out, is surprisingly flexible. Especially when exhaustion has already made the decision for you. The blankets resting across your legs are heavier than anything you normally use. They also trap just about everything else, smoke, dust. The faint scent of livestock from travelers who spent all day beside their wagons. Perhaps even a little rain carried inside on someone's cloak. Medieval life possessed many wonderful qualities. Fresh-smelling laundry was not always among them. By morning, your clothes will smell very much like the inn itself. Smoke oak ale, wet wool, and the unmistakable aroma of a building that has welcomed travelers every night for decades. You probably wouldn't notice at first. Everyone else smells much the same. It is remarkable how quickly the human mind accepts what becomes familiar. Even the sounds begin blending together. The slow breathing of strangers, the gentle creaking of old timber, rain falling beyond the shutters, the occasional flutter of wind finding its way through tiny gaps between the wooden boards. There is no humming refrigerator, no passing traffic. No distant airplane crossing the night sky. Only sounds that would have been perfectly ordinary nearly 700 years ago. If you listen carefully, you might even hear the fire itself breathing a quiet inhale, followed by the soft crackle of another burning log. Outside, somewhere beyond the stable yard, an owl calls once into the darkness. No one inside reacts. They've heard it countless times before. To them, it is simply another familiar voice of the night for you. It becomes part of a world that feels strangely peaceful despite its hardships. You begin to understand something many travelers eventually discovered. The medieval inn was never meant to be luxurious. It wasn't designed to impress anyone. Its purpose was much simpler. Keep the rain outside. Keep the fire burning. Offer food while there is food to offer. Provide a place where weary travelers could close their eyes before beginning another long journey at sunrise. By those standards, this humble inn is doing its job remarkably well, and perhaps after the miles you've walked today, that is more than enough. So the fire continues its quiet conversation with the wood. The rain keeps its gentle rhythm upon the roof. The horses settle into their stalls, and little by little, without asking your permission, sleep carries you deeper into the long medieval night. Some time passes, how much you cannot say. The rain has become softer now, almost disappearing beneath the slow breathing of the room. The warmth of the blankets grows heavier. Your thoughts become slower. The edges of the room soften. The voices that filled the inn only hours ago have dissolved into distant memories. Without noticing the exact moment, you fall asleep. The first dream feels perfectly ordinary. You are still lying in the inn. The same fire glows in the hearth. The same travelers occupy the room. The same rain taps gently against the roof. Everything appears exactly as you remember it. Except everyone is awake, not speaking, simply watching the fire. No one seems surprised to see you. One by one, they rise from their benches and quietly leave through a small wooden door you are certain was not there before. Curiosity overcomes caution. You follow. Beyond the door is another hallway, longer than the inn could possibly contain. The floorboards stretch into warm candlelight that never quite reaches the end. Along the walls hang dozens of iron hooks. Most are empty. A few hold worn traveling cloaks. Each cloak is different. Some are finely woven. Others are patched so many times that almost none of the original fabric remains. You pause beside one faded brown cloak. Its edges are damp, as though someone removed it only moments ago. Without thinking, you reach toward it. A quiet voice behind you speaks. Not yours. You turn. The old innkeeper stands there, at least. You think he is the innkeeper. His face is familiar, though somehow older than before. The candlelight catches lines that seemed absent earlier that evening. His smile is gentle, patient, as though he has explained the same thing countless times. They all leave something behind, he says softly. You glance again at the rows of cloaks. Travelers, he nods. Sometimes a story, a pause. Sometimes a memory, another pause. And sometimes he looks toward the darkness at the end of the hallway, a dream. You are about to ask what he means. Instead, voices begin drifting toward you from somewhere ahead. Not frightened voices. Not cries for help, simply quiet conversations, hundreds of them. Spoken in accents from different centuries, different kingdoms, different lives, all sharing one roof, all carried gently through the sleeping inn. The old innkeeper smiles once more. They're still passing through. Before you can ask another question, the candles flicker. The hallway grows just a little longer, and somewhere far ahead, someone quietly speaks your name for the first time that night. You are no longer certain whether you are dreaming or remembering. Your name, not spoken loudly, not called across the hallway, simply recognized. The sound hangs in the warm air for a moment before disappearing, as gently as the last ripple across a quiet pond. You turn toward the voice. No one is there. Only the long corridor stretching onward beneath the patient glow of candles. The old innkeeper doesn't seem surprised. He folds his hands behind his back and continues walking, his boots making almost no sound against the worn floorboards. You find yourself following him, not because you've decided to, but because it feels as though this hallway has always expected you to. The further you walk, the stranger the inn becomes. At first, the changes are almost impossible to notice. A doorway that wasn't there before. A window looking out over a landscape you don't remember passing. A staircase that seems to climb higher than the roof of the building could possibly allow. Nothing feels frightening, only impossible. And somehow, perfectly natural. The old innkeeper stops beside a narrow window. Outside, moonlight rests upon a quiet road. A single traveler approaches from the distance carrying a lantern. You watch him walk. His pace is slow, unhurried, almost peaceful. For several moments, he grows closer. Then, without warning, another traveler appears behind him. Then another, and another. Soon the road is filled with people walking toward the inn, not together, separated by years. One wears the rough wool of a peasant. Another the finer cloak of a merchant. A pilgrim carries a weathered walking staff decorated with tiny shells gathered from distant shrines. A young woman balances a basket beneath one arm. An elderly man leans gently upon a carved stick polished smooth by decades of use. A soldier removes his helmet before reaching the door. A monk walks silently beneath a hood. They should not all belong to the same century, yet here they are. Arriving together beneath the same moon, they always come, the innkeeper says quietly. His eyes never leave the window. Every road eventually finds this place. You glance toward him, but they can't all be here. No, he smiles kindly. They're only passing through. The answer raises more questions than it settles, yet somehow, you no longer feel the need to ask them. Instead, you continue watching. Each traveler reaches the door. Each pauses for just a heartbeat, then each disappears inside. None ever emerge. The road beyond remains empty for only a moment before another distant lantern appears over the hill. The journey begins again. It occurs to you that you've been standing at the window for far longer than seems possible. The moon has not moved. The candles have not burned lower. Time itself feels as though it has loosened its grip upon this place. The innkeeper begins walking once more, this way. His voice is little more than a whisper. The hallway narrows. The ceiling lowers. The timber beams overhead become older, darker, smoother from countless years of smoke drifting upward from forgotten fires. You pass doors unlike the guest rooms below. Each bears a simple carving, no names, only symbols, an oak tree, a raven, a compass, a key, a small wooden ship, a fox sleeping beneath the moon. You pause before the door marked with a single lantern. The carving is worn almost smooth, as though generations of hands have brushed against it while passing. The innkeeper notices your curiosity. Every room keeps something. You glance toward him, a traveler. He gently shakes his head. A journey. His answer settles over you with surprising comfort. Not every room remembers a person. Some remember a farewell. Others remember a promise. One remembers laughter that echoed so loudly it lingered for decades after the voices themselves were gone. Another remembers a child who fell asleep before supper and refused to wake until sunrise. One room remembers snow, another remembers spring rain. The old innkeeper smiles to himself. There is one room that still remembers music. You listen. At first, there is nothing. Then, somewhere beyond the walls, so faint you wonder if you've imagined it, comes the gentle melody of a wooden flute, only a few notes, soft, patient. The kind of tune that has no beginning and no end. It drifts through the beams of the inn like smoke from the hearth. Then it is gone. The innkeeper closes his eyes for a moment. He stayed only one night. A musician, he never told anyone. The old man opens his eyes again, but the room remembered. For a while, neither of you speaks. The silence is warm, comfortable. Like sitting beside a fire with someone who understands that not every moment needs to be filled with words. At the end of the hallway stands one final door. Unlike all the others, it bears no carving at all. Its wood is pale, untouched, as though it has been waiting. Not for years, but for someone. The innkeeper rests one weathered hand upon the latch. When he looks back at you, his expression is thoughtful, almost familiar. There is one room, he says softly, that never keeps a dream. You wait. It only returns them. The latch lifts with the quietest click. The door begins to open. Beyond it, there is only darkness. Not empty darkness. The peaceful darkness that exists just before dawn. The kind that invites one more step forward, and without quite knowing why, you take it. The darkness welcomes you, not like a place you have entered, but like a place that has finally found you. For a moment, you stand at the threshold, waiting for your eyes to adjust. Waiting for the room to reveal itself, but it does not. There are no walls, no furniture, no bed, no window, no candle. Only the strange feeling that you are standing somewhere between moments. Between waking and sleeping, the old innkeeper remains behind you. You glance back. He has not followed. The doorway behind you is still open. Your voice sounds different here. Not louder, not quieter, just older. As though the room itself has borrowed your voice from another time. The innkeeper answers from the doorway. Somewhere you have already been. You turn toward him. I haven't. The old man smiles, not unkindly, almost sadly. Everyone says that the first time you step further inside, the moment your foot crosses the threshold, the room changes, not suddenly, not violently. The way a dream changes. The way you can look away from a familiar street, and when you look back, something is different. The darkness begins to soften, shapes appear, a floor, a ceiling, walls. A small table, a chair beside a window. A bed. An ordinary room, almost, except for one thing. You recognize it, you do not know from where. But something deep inside you does. The bed is made exactly the way you prefer. The chair sits in the place you would have chosen. The window looks out over a view that feels familiar, not because you have seen it before, but because you have missed it. You approach slowly. Your hand brushes against the table, and suddenly, you remember. Not everything, just a moment, a small one. A memory you had not thought about in years. A summer evening, the smell of rain. A voice laughing from somewhere nearby. The feeling of being younger, before responsibilities, before worries, before the world became something you had to carry. The memory disappears as quickly as it arrived. You pull your hand away. The room is quiet again. The old innkeeper speaks softly. Dreams are not always things we imagine. You look back. He stands beside the doorway. They are places we visit. The thought should frighten you, but somehow it doesn't. Because the room feels gentle, safe. Like returning home after being away for too long, you walk toward the bed. On the pillow rests a small object, a folded piece of paper. You hesitate before picking it up. There is no writing on the outside, only your name. Your real name, not spoken, not called. Written. You look toward the innkeeper. How did you get this? He does not answer. Instead, he says you left it. The room becomes colder, not physically, something deeper. A small crack forming in the comfort. I've never been here. The innkeeper watches you carefully. Not while awake, you stare at the paper, slowly. You unfold it. Inside is a message. A single sentence. Written in handwriting you do not recognize, but somehow you know it is yours. Do not let him convince you to stay. The room changes, just slightly. The candle that wasn't there a moment ago flickers. The walls shift. The peaceful feeling fades. For the first time since arriving at the inn, you feel something else. A question, a doubt, a warning. You look toward the doorway. The innkeeper is still there, still smiling, still patient. But now, you notice something you somehow missed before. He has never once stepped inside this room. Who wrote this? The old man looks at the note, then back at you, a version of you. The answer hangs there, impossible, yet somehow expected. You look around the room again, the familiar details. The comfortable bed, the window, the chair, the memories. All of it suddenly feels different, not like a place made for you. Like a place made from you. The innkeeper lowers his voice. There are many kinds of dreams. You listen. Some are forgotten before morning, a pause. Some stay with us our entire lives. The candles outside the room flicker. Shadows move across the hallway, and some. He looks toward the darkness behind you. Become hungry. You turn. Slowly, there is nothing there. Only the room, only the bed, only the quiet. But then you hear it, a sound very faint, coming from beneath the floorboards. A whisper, not a voice, not exactly. More like hundreds of voices speaking at once, all trying to remember the same word. Your name. You step away. The innkeeper finally moves. For the first time, he reaches toward the room, but not to enter. To close the door. Wait, your voice stops him. What happens if I stay? The old man looks at you. And for the first time since meeting him, he does not look like an innkeeper. He looks tired. Ancient. Like someone who has watched the same tragedy happen to many times. Then tomorrow morning, he pauses. The inn will remember you. The door begins closing. You grab it. Remember me how? The old man meets your eyes, and, like everyone else, the door shuts, darkness returns. But this time, you are not alone. The room breathes. The walls settle. The bed behind you creaks. Someone sits down upon it. You do not turn around. Because somewhere deep inside, you already know Whatever is behind you is not a visitor. It is the part of the dream that came back, and then you hear your own voice behind you whispering. Finally, the first thing you notice is the sound of rain, soft, gentle, falling somewhere beyond the window. For a moment, you do not move, you simply listen. Because there is something comforting about it, the steady rhythm, the quiet, the feeling that the world outside is far away. You keep your eyes closed, still caught somewhere between sleep and waking, and then you remember. The inn, the hallway, the old man, the room, the note. Do not let him convince you to stay. Your eyes open. You are lying in your own bed, your own room, your own home. Morning light rests against the walls. Everything is exactly where you left it. The familiar shape of the furniture. The familiar sounds outside. The familiar weight of reality returning. For several seconds, you simply stare at the ceiling, waiting. Almost expecting something to be different, but nothing is. No ancient hallway, no candlelit corridors. No impossible doors. No old innkeeper waiting patiently at the edge of the room. Just morning, just another day. You almost laugh, almost. Because suddenly the entire thing feels ridiculous. A dream, nothing more. A strange, vivid dream created by a tired mind. You sit up. You rub your face, and then you see it on the knitstand. Beside your bed, a folded piece of paper. You stop moving. Because you know. Before touching it. You know, slowly, you reach over. Your hand hesitates above it. A small part of you tells you not to open it. A small part of you already understands. But curiosity has always been one of the strongest things about dreams, and sometimes the things we are most afraid to are the things we need to know. You unfold the paper. The handwriting is exactly the same, your handwriting. The message is different, only 3 words. You opened it. You drop the paper immediately. Your heart begins beating faster, not from fear, not yet from confusion. Because the impossible thing about dreams is not that they can feel real. It is that sometimes they remember you too. You spend the rest of the morning trying to convince yourself there is an explanation. A forgotten note, something you wrote while half asleep. A coincidence, a trick of memory. Anything. Anything except the truth that something followed you back. Throughout the day, small things begin happening, nothing dramatic. Nothing anyone else would notice. A door you know you closed is slightly open. A song you have not heard in years plays quietly from a nearby room. A scent fills the air with smoke. Old candles, a fireplace burning somewhere far away. You stop because you know that smell, the inn. You tell yourself it is impossible. But the mind is a strange thing. It can convince itself that a memory is real. It can convince itself that a dream is real, but it becomes much harder. When the dream starts remembering details you never gave it. That evening, you try to sleep. You avoid thinking about the inn. You avoid thinking about the room. You avoid thinking about the voice behind you. The one that sounded like yours. Eventually exhaustion wins, your eyes close, and the world fades. The rain returns first, that is how you know. Before you see anything. Before you hear anything, the rain, always the rain. Then comes the sound of footsteps, slow, measured. Walking across old wooden floors, you open your eyes, and immediately, you know where you are at the inn, but something is different. The candles are lower, the halls are darker, the warmth is gone. The comforting feeling that surrounded this place before has disappeared. The inn no longer feels like it is welcoming you. It feels like it is waiting. You stand. Your feet touch the wooden floor. And beneath your feet, you feel something carved into the boards. You look down. A symbol. The same symbol carved above the doors. The compass, the key, the raven, the oak tree. But this one is different. A symbol you have never seen before. A doorway. Half open, the old innkeeper appears at the end of the hallway. But he is not walking toward you. He is standing still, watching. You came back. His voice is not accusing. It is afraid. You walk toward him. I didn't choose to. The old man nods. I know. You look around. What happened? The innkeeper looks past you, not at you, behind you. Your stomach tightens slowly. You turn. The hallway behind you stretches into darkness. At the far end, a door stands open. The door from the room. The room that returned dreams. A figure stands inside, motionless, waiting. You cannot see its face, but you know something immediately. It is not the thing that was behind you. It is the thing that was pretending to be. The innkeeper whispers. The old man's expression darkens. No, a pause. A memory brought you back. The figure in the doorway moves. Only one step. The candles along the hallway go out. One by one, darkness spreads toward you. The innkeeper grabs your shoulder. For the first time. His hand feels cold. Listen carefully. His voice becomes urgent. If you wake up, you stare at him. If you hear your name, a pause. Do not answer. The darkness reaches the hallway. The figure speaks. Your voice perfectly. Wake up. Your eyes open. You are back in your bed. Morning light. Silence normal. You sit up quickly. Breathing hard, the nightmare is gone. The room is empty. You almost believe it until you hear it. From somewhere inside your house, a voice quiet, patient, waiting your name. You freeze because it is not calling you. It is practicing. You do not move. You cannot, not because you are frozen. Because some part of you understands. That movement would mean admitting it is real. The voice comes again, softly, patiently. Almost kindly, your name, not spoken with anger. Not spoken like a threat. Spoken like someone practicing a word they have only recently discovered. You sit in the darkness of your bedroom, listening, waiting. Hoping that if you remain completely still, the moment will pass the way nightmares sometimes do. The way dreams dissolve when you stop paying attention. But this is not a dream. Because dreams forget, and this remembers. Eventually, the voice stops. The silence that follows feels heavier than the sound itself. Slowly, you turn on the lamp beside your bed. The room is empty. Exactly as it should be. No shadow in the corner. No figure standing near the doorway. No impossible door. Nothing. You let out a breath you didn't realize you were holding. Then you notice something. The lamp. The one beside your bed. The one you turned on every night for years. Has been moved only slightly, an inch or two, but enough. Enough to tell you something. someone else has touched it. You get out of bed. You check the room, the hallway, the kitchen, every place a person could hide. Nothing, no one. You tell yourself there is a reasonable explanation. There has to be. You repeat that sentence several times. Because sometimes the things we say to calm ourselves are really the things we are trying to convince ourselves of. The next morning arrives, and somehow that makes everything worse. Nightmares belong in the dark. They belong in forgotten corners. Daylight is supposed to protect you, and yet, as you walk through your home, you notice things, small things, almost invisible things. A chair pulled away from the table, a cabinet left open, a book turned face down. Nothing impossible, nothing terrifying, except you know exactly how everything was left. Because this is your home, your safe place, your familiar place, and now something else knows it too. You try to return to normal. You go about your day. You avoid thinking about the inn. You avoid thinking about the figure. You avoid thinking about the warning. If you hear your name, do not answer. But the hardest thing about trying not to think about something is that you have to think about it first. That evening, you hear music, a quiet melody, a wooden flute. The same melody from the room that remembered music, only now. It is not coming from the walls of the inn. It is coming from your home. You follow the sound, slowly, carefully, until you reach a room you rarely enter. A room filled with old things, things you have kept but forgotten. You open the door. The music stops. Inside, sitting on a shelf, is a small wooden flute. You stare at it, because you have never owned one. You reach toward it, then stop, because beside the flute is another piece of paper, folded neatly, waiting. You already know what it says. You know before opening it, and somehow that scares you more than anything else. Because the inn is not just showing you things anymore. It is predicting you. You unfold the paper. This time there are several words. A warning, a message, a conversation. Written in 2 different handwritings. The first is yours. I found the door. Below it, another sentence, written beneath, by something else. I found you. The room grows colder. Not dramatically, not like a storm, just enough. Just enough for you to notice, just enough to make you understand. The thing from the inn is learning. It is learning your home, your habits, your memories, your fears, and worst of all, your voice. That night, you refuse to sleep. You make coffee. You turn on lights. You sit in the living room waiting for sunrise, because the only place it seems to have power is when you are asleep, when you dream, when your mind opens the door. Hours pass. The clock moves slowly. You begin to believe you made it. You begin to believe staying awake was enough then. The power goes out. The entire house falls silent. No lights. No nothing. No hum of electricity. Only darkness. And then a knock. 3 gentle knocks at your front door. You stare toward the entrance. Your first thought is simple. Someone is outside. Someone needs help. Someone may be lost. Then you remember. The road outside the inn. The travelers. The lanterns. The people who arrived, but never left. Another knock. This time louder. You approach the door, slowly. You look through the window beside it. Nothing, only darkness, then a voice. Please, your hand stops because you recognize the voice. It is someone you know, someone you trust. Someone who should not be standing outside your door. The voice speaks again. Open the door. Your hand moves toward the lock, almost without thinking. Because that is what makes voices powerful, not the sound. The memories attached to them, the feelings, the trust, the love, the history. Then you remember the innkeeper. If you hear your name, do not answer. The voice changes, just slightly. A tiny mistake, a tiny crack. Like someone trying to imitate a song they have never heard. Please, a pause, then. Your name. You step backward, the voice stops, the silence returns. And then, from behind you, inside your house, another voice whispers. Your own, you did well. You turn slowly. At the end of the hallway stands the figure from the dream, but now it is different because it has learned something. It has learned how to look like you. The lights return. The hallway is empty. The front door is still locked. The house is silent, but on the floor, beneath where the figure stood, is a trail of wet footprints leading away from the door. Not toward it, and in the distance, very faintly, you hear the sound of an old wooden door closing. The sound of the door closing fades, but the silence that follows does not feel empty, it feels occupied. You stand in the hallway of your own home, watching, waiting, listening for footsteps, for breathing, for anything that proves you are not alone. But there is nothing, only the sound of your own heartbeat, slowly. You look down, the footprints are still there, wet fresh, leading away from the front door, toward the hallway, toward you. You do not sleep, not that night, not the next, because every time your eyes begin to close, you hear it, the same thing. A distant door opening, a wooden floor creaking beneath unseen footsteps, and somewhere far away, a voice calling your name. Not loudly, not desperately, patiently, like it knows eventually you will answer. By the third night, exhaustion finally wins. Not because you choose sleep, because the body eventually takes what it needs. Your eyes close, and the rain begins. You are standing in the road, the same road, the one outside the inn. The moon hangs above you, the trees sway gently. The lanterns glow in the distance, and there it is, waiting exactly where it was before. The old and warm, quiet, inviting, except now. You notice something. Something you missed the first time. The windows are dark. Every single one. No candlelight, no movement, no signs of life. The inn is not welcoming travelers. It is waiting for a storm. The front door opens before you touch it. The old innkeeper stands there, but he looks different, older, more tired. As if every moment you spent awake, he spent fighting something you could not see. You should not have come back. His voice is gentle, but there is sadness beneath it. You step inside. I didn't choose to. The innkeeper nods. I know. The door closes behind you. The sound echoes through the inn, not like a door shutting. Like something being sealed. You look around. The familiar warmth is gone. The fireplace is cold. The candles flicker weakly. The travelers are nowhere to be seen. The inn feels abandoned. How long has it been like this? The innkeeper looks toward the empty hallway since it learned the road home. You follow his gaze. What is it? The old man is quiet for a long time. Long enough that you wonder if he heard you. Finally, he answers. Something that was never meant to dream. You wait. The innkeeper walks toward the fireplace. He places another log onto the cold ashes. It ignites immediately, but the flame burns strangely. Not orange, not yellow, almost silver, like moonlight caught in a fire. There are things in the world between sleeping and waking. He watches the flames, things people create without realizing. Nightmares. He shakes his head. No, a pause. Nightmares are only shadows. He looks at you. This is what casts them. The words settle heavily. The innkeeper nods. It has many names. What do you call it? You look toward the hallway. The thing following me. The innkeeper nods. It has many names. What do you call it? The old man looks toward the ceiling, toward the countless rooms above, then whispers, the unremembered. The name feels wrong. Not frightening, incomplete. Like a word missing something important. What does it want? The innkeeper turns toward you, and for the first time, you see fear in his eyes. It wants what all forgotten things want, a pause to be remembered. The innkeeper walks toward the hallway. You follow, past the doors, past the symbols, past the rooms holding journeys from hundreds of lives. But now, the carvings are changing. The oak tree fades, the raven disappears. The compass cracks. The key turns black. The inn itself is forgetting. You stop. What is happening? The innkeeper places his hand against the wall. The inn remembers everything. He looks at you. That is why it exists. He continues walking. Every goodbye, every promise, every dream someone was never meant to return from. The hallway stretches longer. But there are things even this place cannot hold forever. You reach the final door. The door with no carving. The room that returned dreams. Except now, something has changed. The wood is no longer pale. It is dark, like it has been burned. The innkeeper does not touch it. He does not need to. The door opens by itself, inside. You see your bedroom, your real bedroom. Exactly as it was when you fell asleep. But there is someone standing beside the bed. You stare. The figure turns. It looks exactly like you, but something is wrong. The expression, the eyes, the smile, too perfect. Like a person who has studied being human, but never actually was. The innkeeper whispers. That is why you cannot answer when it calls. You look at him. Why? Because it does not need your voice, a pause. It needs your permission. The copy of you smiles. You came back. Its voice is yours, but underneath it, there are hundreds of others. Travelers, dreamers, people who walked the road. People who answered. The innkeeper steps forward for the first time. He enters the room. The walls shake. The entire inn groans. Like an old creature waking from a long sleep, you cannot have him. The thing wearing your face tilts its head. You kept them all. The innkeeper's expression changes. Pain, regret. I protected them. The thing smiles. No, a pause. You preserved them. The room goes silent because for the first time, you wonder if the thing is telling the truth. The innkeeper looks at you. and you realize he is not angry, he is ashamed. The old man speaks quietly. There is one thing you need to understand. The flames in the hallway begin going out one night at this inn. He looks at you, was never the danger. The figure behind you takes a step closer. The innkeeper finishes. Leaving was the door slams shut. Darkness, and somewhere far away, back in the waking world, your sleeping body opens its eyes. But the person sitting up in your bed does not look afraid. It looks relieved. Darkness, not the darkness of night, not the darkness of a room. A different kind. The darkness that exists before a dream begins, before images, before sounds, before thought. You float somewhere between moments, unable to move, unable to speak, unable to tell if your eyes are open or closed. Then you hear voices, thousands of them, whispering, remembering, a child laughing, a woman singing, a man saying goodbye, a traveler promising to return, a soldier praying before a battle, a musician playing a song he never finished. All of them passing through your mind like pages from a book. Lives you never lived, memories that are not yours, yet somehow you understand them. You feel them because the inn has shown them to you, and now the inn is showing you why you think I am the monster. The voice comes from the darkness, your voice. The voice of the thing wearing your face. You cannot see it, but you know it is close. You think I followed you home. A pause. You think I stole something from you. The darkness shifts, but you never asked what I was before I found you. The darkness becomes a room, not your room, not the inn. A place between them, an endless hallway filled with doors. Thousands of doors, each one different, each one waiting. You recognize some. The oak door, the raven door, the key, the lantern, the compass. Every journey, every traveler, every dream. The figure stands at the end of the hallway, still wearing your face, but now it looks less like an imitation, and more like someone exhausted, someone who has been pretending for too long. You think I want your life. It looks around at the endless doors. I do not. You finally find your voice. Then what do you want? The figure looks at you, and for a moment, there is something almost human in its expression. I want one. The answer confuses you. One what? A life. The figure walks closer. The hallway changes with every step. Images appear on the walls. Your memories, your childhood, your happiest moments. Your regrets, things you never told anyone. Things you barely admitted to yourself. The figure watches them. I know every thought you tried to forget. A pause. Every moment you wished you could change. Another step. Every dream you abandoned. You feel anger rising. You're not me. The figure stops. No, quietly. I'm not. It looks down. That is the problem. The hallway fades. The innkeeper appears, standing between you. The old man looks more tired than ever. You cannot listen to it. The figure turns toward him. You never told him. The innkeeper says nothing. And that silence answers enough. You look at the innkeeper. Told me what? The old man closes his eyes. For a long moment, he says nothing. Then, the inn does not collect dreams. The hallway goes silent. It collects what dreams leave behind. You stare at him. What does that mean? The innkeeper looks toward the doors. When people dream, he pauses. They leave pieces of themselves behind, memories, feelings, fears, hope. The little fragments of ourselves that exist only when we are asleep. The inn was created to keep those pieces safe. The old man looks at the figure, but sometimes his voice lowers. Something forms from what is left behind. The figure speaks. And sometimes it looks at you. Something is born alone. The innkeeper looks away. You were not supposed to become aware. The figure smiles sadly. I was not supposed to exist. The words hit differently because suddenly you understand. It was not created to replace you. It was created because of you. A piece of you, a forgotten dream. A version of yourself formed from everything you ignored, everything you buried, everything you left behind. The figure looks at you. I spent years in that room. A pause. Listening. I heard people arrive. I heard them leave. I heard their dreams disappear. Its expression changes. They forgot. The hallway trembles. The innkeeper told me I was not real. A pause. So I found the only way to become real. You already know the answer. But you ask anyway. How? The figure looks directly at you. By being remembered, the doors begin opening, one by one. Behind each door, someone is watching. The travelers, the dreamers, the people who came before. All the forgotten guests. The innkeeper steps forward. Enough. But the figure does not move. You kept them asleep. The old man's face falls. You kept them safe. The figure shakes its head. No, quietly. You kept them from leaving. The accusation hangs in the air. And you realize something uncomfortable. The innkeeper may not be evil, but he is not innocent. The old man turns to you. There is a choice. The words are heavy. You can wake up. A pause, and the inn will lose its hold on you. You look toward the figure, and what happens to it? The innkeeper says nothing. You already know. The figure speaks. It disappears. The room becomes quiet, not frightening, sad. Because for the first time, you see what it really is. Not a monster, not a demon, not a nightmare. A lonely piece of yourself that only wanted to exist. The innkeeper reaches toward the final door, the door home. Choose. The door opens on the other side. Your bedroom, morning light. Your bed, your life waiting. Behind you, the figure whispers. You will forget me. You stop, because you know it is right. When you wake, you will call this a dream. You will move on. You will forget. The figure says your name. Not like a threat, like a goodbye. You turn back. And for the first time, you see its real face. Not yours, not a copy. Something different, something that has always been there. Something human. The figure smiles. Thank you. You step toward the doorway. The moment before waking, you hear the innkeeper whisper. Remember. Your eyes open. Morning, sunlight, your room, your bed, your life. You sit up slowly. Everything feels normal, safe. The nightmare is over. You look toward your knitstand. Nothing. No notes. No strange objects. No signs. You almost smile. Almost. Then you notice something. A small wooden carving sitting beside your bed. A tiny door, half open. You touch it, and somewhere, far away, an old door opens. Morning arrives quietly, almost too quietly. The kind of morning that feels less like a beginning and more like something pretending to be one. You sit at the edge of your bed, waiting for the fear to return, waiting for the impossible. But nothing happens. No whispers, no footsteps, no rain against the window. No old wooden halls waiting somewhere beyond sleep, only sunlight. Only silence. Only you. For the first time in days, you allow yourself to believe it is over. Maybe dreams really are just dreams. Maybe exhaustion can create entire worlds. Maybe the mind can build a place so detailed, so alive, that it becomes impossible to separate from reality. You almost believe that almost, until you notice the carving, the tiny wooden door sitting on your knit stand. The one you saw before waking, the one that should not exist. You pick at you. It is small enough to fit in your palm. Old wood, smooth edges, a tiny handle, a door that opens. You tell yourself not to touch it. You already know better. But curiosity has always been the thing that opens doors, especially the ones we know should remain closed. The moment your fingers touch the handle, you hear it, a sound from somewhere far away. A bell, the kind that hangs above an olden door, a gentle sound. Welcoming, waiting, you close your eyes. And when you open them, you are standing on the road again. The inn sits beneath the moon, but this time, something is different. The road is empty. No travelers, no lanterns. No footsteps approaching from the distance for the first time since you arrived. The road has stopped bringing people here. You walk toward the door. It opens before you reach it. The old innkeeper stands inside. But he is no longer the tired man you saw before. He looks peaceful, almost relieved. You came back. You step inside. I thought I left. The old man smiles. You did. The answer surprises you. You let me go. The innkeeper looks around at the walls, the doors, the endless memories held inside. I have been trying to do that for a very long time. You look toward the hallway. What happens now? The old man follows your gaze. The inn changes. As you walk through the building, you notice it. The doors are different. The carvings are fading, not disappearing, resting. The oak tree, the raven, the compass, the key, all becoming softer, like memories finally allowed to sleep. The inn was never meant to keep people forever. The innkeeper says. You look at him. Then why did it? The old man is quiet then. Because I was afraid. The confession echoes through the hallway. You were afraid of what? The innkeeper touches one of the old doors. The moment something is forgotten, he pauses. It becomes lost. You understand. The innkeeper was not guarding a prison. He was guarding a graveyard, not of bodies, of moments, of pieces of people. I thought if I held on to everything, his voice becomes softer. Nothing would truly disappear. You look at him, but some things are supposed to end. The old man smiles sadly. Yes. A pause. You reach the final door, the room that returned dreams. It is open. Inside, the figure waits, not wearing your face anymore. Not pretending, just itself. It looks at you. You came back. You step closer because you were part of me. The room becomes still. For the first time, the figure looks afraid, not of you, of the possibility that it might finally matter. I thought if you woke up. It looks down, I would disappear. You shake your head. No, a pause. You just wouldn't be alone anymore. The figure looks toward the innkeeper. The old man lowers his head. And you realize something. The thing everyone feared. The thing everyone called a monster. Was only dangerous because it had never been given a place. The room begins changing. The walls dissolve. The darkness fades. The memories return where they belong, not trapped. Not forgotten, carried. The innkeeper steps backward. You look at him. Are you coming? The old man smiles. No, why? He looks around one last time. Someone has to close the door. The inn begins fading. The hallway, the rooms, the endless journeys, all becoming light. The old man walks toward the entrance. The same door where countless travelers arrived, only now. It opens outward. Before leaving, he turns. One last thing. You look at him. What? The innkeeper smiles. Be careful what you ignore. The world becomes white. You wake morning, your room, your bed, the same sunlight. The same quiet, but something feels different, not frightening. Just lighter. Like carrying a weight you never knew you had finally set down. Days pass, then weeks. The dream becomes harder to remember. The details fade. The hallway, the road, the innkeeper, the doors. All slowly becoming pieces of a story you once heard. Until one night, you wake suddenly. No nightmare, no fear. Just a strange feeling. You sit up and notice something beside your bed. A small wooden carving, a tiny door, half open. You smile. Because you understand now, some doors are not meant to trap us. Some doors are reminders. You reach out, you close it, and somewhere far away, on a quiet road beneath an endless moon, an old innkeeper places a lantern in the window, not waiting for someone to arrive, but letting them know if they ever become lost. The road home still exists. And so the lantern burns a little lower. The road grows quiet once more, and somewhere beyond the places we remember, an old inn waits patiently beneath an endless moon. Perhaps tonight you were only listening to a story, or perhaps some part of you has walked that road before. If, in the days ahead, an old melody feels strangely familiar, or you catch the scent of wood smoke where no fire burns, or you dream of a hallway lined with doors you've never opened, don't be too quick to dismiss it. Some journeys ask to be forgotten, others simply wait. Until we're ready to remember, for now, leave the road behind. Let the rain fade into the distance. Let the candles burn themselves to gentle embers. And if sleep comes quietly tonight, follow it without fear. Not every dream is trying to keep you. Some are simply trying to guide you home. Thank you for spending this evening at the inn. May your rest be peaceful, your dreams be kind. And should you ever hear your name whispered from somewhere just beyond sleep, perhaps wait just a little longer before answering. Good night, traveler, until our paths cross again.